You're listening to the Real Answers for First-Time Homebuyers series, a special run of episodes answering the most common questions from real renters based on thousands of buyer consultations and the latest market data over the last 18 months from everywhere on the internet. For the full series, head to the podcast library and get the answers you need to cut through the confusion of buying your first home. Let's get into it. Welcome back to part 6 on the 20 most frequently asked questions from first-time homebuyers with the answers you won't find in subreddits. Let's go.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What is happening, my homies? David Sidoni, and this is part 6 of the frequently asked questions with the answers that you're probably not going to find very many places on the internet. These answers are tested and successful, and they're updated to the stressful affordability challenges of the 2025 and 2026 housing market. So let's get right into it. Question number 14. What are the hidden costs of homeownership that I should be budgeting for? When I scanned all the answers that the internet had on this question, it became quite clear to me that I apparently have a very different definition of the term hidden when we're talking about hidden costs in homeownership. Most of these costs, they should never be considered hidden. I saw buyers frustrated about things that are so typically normal in any purchase. Okay, so let's just remove the word hidden from the question and let's replace it with what are the research calculated, anticipated, and not overinflated expenditures and costs that come with buying a home. What we want to do is we want to take away the fear and the ignorance of this process. And remember, here at this podcast, ignorance isn't a dirty word. It just means you don't know what you don't know. We're good with that. When I saw the list of hidden costs, air quotes included, hidden costs, the #1 and #2 things that they're trying to warn you about were your property taxes and insurance as hidden costs. Can anyone say PITI? If you're brand new to the show, you haven't heard me talk before, maybe you think PITI stands for the pity that others have on you when you have that giant new monthly payment. But PITI stands for the full monthly payment that you're going to look at when you do your calculations. It's your principal, your interest, those are for the mortgage, and then it's your taxes and insurance. So when you work the numbers with the rent replacement strategy formula, you're going to be comparing your monthly rent payment to a full PITI payment with the T and the I. They are not hidden, and it shouldn't be a surprise. Getting into the numbers on your taxes and insurance, here's a truth bomb that counteracts what I see a lot of people say online. They say, you know what? Don't believe that realtor telling you that it's fixed forever. That's a sucker move, man, because taxes and insurance go up. So you can't compare that to rent because your home payment goes up too. So I'm going to say this again with love and from the viewpoint of the podcast, but that's an ignorant statement. I don't mean mean and nasty. It's just, ignorant, like, hey, that sucks that no one is teaching me this, so I'm going to start a podcast so people can know the truth. Ignorance, just unaware, no judgment. Because the real hidden secret, if taxes and insurance go up in your area, well, then they also go up in the home or the apartment that you rent, and your landlord bakes in the new higher payments into a higher rent. So if you're a renter and you're thinking that it's a sucker to buy a place, well, guess what? You're going to pay for the increases in taxes and insurance as well. It's just going to be in the form of a higher rent. You're going to pay for it either way. But with ownership and that PITI payment, you're going to pay for the increases too with your T and I, but you're also going to benefit greatly from the P in PITI, which is paying down your principal and you paying into a wealth builder. But the big reason that the fear is so crazy overblown in this hidden taxes and insurance going up, the math is totally wrong. It's not that big a deal. In your PITI, the T, the taxes, it can range from 0.3% to 2% of your purchase price. And that's not the complete maximum. There are some crazy places, but it doesn't get much more than that. So on the national average, it's 0.9% that you pay when you purchase your home. Let's calculate that in at 1% just to make it easy. So you buy a home at $400,000, which means your assessed value for the first year is that purchase price, $400,000. So you have to pay 1% property tax on $400,000. Those of you not real great at math, that's $4,000. So we divide it by 12, that's $333 a month. Okay, so that $333 a month, that's your base. But you're already adding that into your PITI when you're doing your calculations long before you get a home. When people trip out on this and get the really exaggerated information is the so-called hidden cost in your taxes going up. And they overestimate these numbers in wild math. I don't even know where they get it. Here's how taxes going up works. In 46 states, your property taxes have limitations and caps on the amount that they can go up each year. And it ain't much with a national average at 5.1%. Hang with me if you haven't done the full math yet, because this is where I think people get confused. Okay, you're like, well, 1% on $400,000, that cost me $333 a month. Okay, but here's what happened. You're still paying the 1% on your assessed value. It's just that your assessed value, nationally, the average was it can only go up 5.1%. So we take your $400,000 and we bring that value of which you get taxed to $420,400. That's 5.1%. So what that means is you're going to be taxed annually on $420,400, which means your annual taxes will only go up $204 a year, which works out to only $17 a month. And that's if your state fits in that average of 5.1% for the cap on tax increases. In California, your property taxes cap at 2%. So the increase on that same home in California, it's only $7 a month. That cap means that your tax liability and what you're going to have to pay, it can only go up in very small increments. And you're always going to pay only that, what was the national average? 0.9% on the full assessed value. And that assessed value goes up very, very small every year. But here's what doesn't. If you're in California and you're in that $400,000 home for 10 years, let's say the value of the home is now $620,000, which is right on that 4.5% appreciation average. Well, you're still only paying property taxes on that original $400,000 plus the 2% increase per year. That means your home's worth $620,000, but you're only paying taxes on $487,000. That's your base tax value. Now, if that didn't make sense to you, okay, I get it. But at least make sure that you don't listen to someone who doesn't explain the full picture if you don't understand that math. And if you do understand that math, then awesome, you'll be able to tell that guy who's screaming on TikTok, shut up, dude. Okay, and then the second one, the last I in your PITI, insurance. Yes, it's a thing, and you have to pay for it. And if you're working with a team way before you go out and start visiting open houses, then that'll already be calculated into your rent replacement strategy, and you're going to know if the new payment with that T and the I included makes sense to you, so it won't be hidden to you. Now, another thing I saw online that was a hidden cost that cracked me up was HOAs. What? Dude, hidden to who? If you talk to anyone that's been researching buying a home for more than, 18 minutes, the topic of an HOA has come up. This is one of the most hotly contested topics and something that people know about. So while we're on the topic of the hidden cost of HOAs, let's break it down. Now, I have no idea if an HOA is right for you, but I do know that I've seen numerous examples of people who came into the process assuring me or assuring their unicorn that they simply despise HOAs. People who are like, I don't care what you say, David, or I don't care what you say, unicorn, I'm never going to pay an HOA. And in fact, there were several people that I interviewed on the podcast that said the same thing. But then when they create their whole strategy, not only do they consider homes with an HOA in side-by-side comparisons, some of them even bought them. Sometimes that's due to the hidden savings in HOA fees. I know it appeared as a hidden cost in all the places online, but there's a hidden savings that a lot of people don't talk about. For many condos and townhomes, your HOA covers the bulk of your main insurance cost. Now, if you bought a regular home, you have to pay that insurance out of pocket. That's why we call it PITI, insurance. So if you pay $350 for an HOA, according to insurance.com, the average insurance on a $400,000 property is $269 a month. It's different everywhere, but I checked it. That's pretty close. You'll still need what's called a walls-in insurance policy. Those run about $50 to $55 was one average I saw. So that means you're paying that HOA of $350, but you would have had to pay $269 for an insurance policy on a home. So now we take the $55 out of that $269, that's $214. That means your $350 HOA fee, $214 of that is going towards the insurance that you would have to pay on a single family home anyway. When you're looking and comparing a single family home with no HOA, and you're looking at a home and going, well, it's $350 more. Not really. It's $350 minus $214. And so that little difference there, maybe the amenities right there are enough that you can now compare those homes apples to apples instead of one of them costs $350 more. One of the other things in the hidden costs of buying a home was utilities. Once again, did you really think people are buying a home thinking that electricity is free in their house? It actually kind of works the other way. Your utilities, sometimes they're free with certain apartments. But when you're moving forward, if you do want to figure out what's so hidden about utilities, here's some tips for you. First, you can research things with the utility companies before you go home shopping. And then once you've got certain individual homes, you can get really good guesstimates on the costs. And then here's something that I always encourage everyone to do. Once you negotiate your contract and you're under contract, you got the home. Woohoo! Now you're in the inspection due diligence period, the second negotiations that are going to happen. During that time, ask the seller to share the last couple of years of utility bills, especially ask them for the hottest months and the coldest months. And then double especially to see some bills for the last few years if the home has solar panels. Next on the list of hidden costs was maintenance and repairs. And as a dude who hears all the arguments for renting against buying a home, not having to pay for your repairs and having your landlord pay for all that stuff, that's one of the arguments that I hear the most. So we'll walk into this again, attempting to shift your mindset a little bit, because using the full math from part 4 of this series, that will show you that in the long run, you're definitely going to be doing a lot better, creating more stability, more safety for yourself when you own a home. And it will help you to see probably the biggest formula I do when I'm talking about, my landlord pays for everything. You're right. And I'm sorry I did the dumb guy voice. I don't mean to disparage you. So let's just look at this a different way. If your toilet breaks, sucks. You have to pay $500 to repair your toilet. But what if that happens in year 2 or year 3? Well, now you've done 2 or 3 years of saving your rent $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month and been putting it into your own homeownership. So $24,000, $36,000, or $48,000 that you have put towards yourself, or, well, I saved $500 because I didn't have to repair a toilet. All right, a quick side note before I get really harsh and myth busting like a mother on the misconceptions about this particular hidden cost. Here's a tip when it comes to, I'm super freaked out about repairs. Most of the time, you don't have to pay for the first year repairs. For about $700 and $900, you're going to get most major issue covered with a new home warranty. They're really robust because they're trying to get you to buy them at a much more expensive price later on down the line. So they give you kind of an introductory price when you're trying to buy the home. You can get items repaired that would cost thousands of dollars for just a deductible payment, which is usually like $100 or less. So be sure to work with your realtor to have that home warranty as part of your contract. And a lot of times, depending on the market and depending on the state, the seller will actually pay for it. I think the easiest way to break down this myth is to look at an actual report where someone was trying to say, let's get real about this, man. It's not as cheap as you think to own a home. I mean, there's tons of misinformation on Reddit and all the other forums, but this is the best way to illustrate it. So this headline epitomizes the ignorance and hyperbole and all the fear-mongering that happens with the clickbait headlines. Check this. This is what it said. The real cost of owning a home, and we're going to get real. The average annual cost of maintenance, repairs, taxes, and insurance, it's now over $18,000 a year in the U.S. That's $1,500 a month on top of your mortgage. That includes things like replacing a broken water heater, $800 to $1,500, fixing a roof leak, $300 for a minor patch or $10,000 if it's bad, HVA servicing, pest control, tree trimming, and much more. Okay, whoa. Man, this article pisses me off. Nobody should be budgeting and comparing without looking at their taxes and insurance. So saying that this is on top of your mortgage, that's crazy. And then what happens is they get it all confused because they throw that $1,500 a month on top of your mortgage and make you think that the maintenance and the repairs are costing you $18,000 a year. I have no idea where they actually got that math, but I can tell you this. On an average $400,000 home, we figured out the taxes would be $333 a month and your insurance would be $269 a month. So right there, when you're using the full PI/TI calculations, which most people do, that changes the whole number. So now you can take $600 off that $1,500 a month. Okay, so now let's be real here. That's going to leave you $900 a month that they're saying that you should have extra for repairs and maintenance. How do you not get yourself in that situation? First of all, you hire the best support team to help you with your purchase, who will thoroughly go over your inspections before you officially commit to buying that home. Between choosing the right team and then working through the entire inspection with them and doing all your due diligence, not to mention the fact that you're going to have a home warranty that's going to cover the first year, between both of those things, you absolutely shouldn't need $900 a month for unexpected repairs in the first year. And hopefully, with all the due diligence on those inspections, not for the first few years, based on that quality information that you get and have gone over with a professional team that does this all the time. And as for the quote in the article, HVAC servicing, pest control, tree trimming, and more, well, that's another reason why you collaborate with the experienced professionals, because what you're going to do is you're going to create a spreadsheet for every single home that you're even considering. That way, these minor things, they can be expected costs, not surprises. And you get that when you're working with an experienced advocate. Now, I'm not saying that repairs and maintenance won't factor into the life that you own the home. Of course they do. But the key is they factor in as anticipated, not as some sort of hidden thing that is going to happen down the road and just totally surprise you. So the way you do that is you're covered for your first year, you're okay. And then your home inspection checklist, that's going to be something that's going to help you so you feel like you're covered for years 2 and 3 and 4. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't save, you should, but notice I said your home inspection checklist. So you're going to take your home inspection and whatever you do not get repaired or you don't get a credit from the seller, you keep that. And that just becomes a checklist for you to look at those items and figure out what you want to do. You can even go through it with your inspector and your realtor and figure out which ones are the most important ones to do next. So your first year, you can start setting up an automated savings account for those items and prepare for them. No, it's not a perfect solution. It's not a perfect formula. But in the long run, first of all, when you take away the ridiculous math that they did, you're going to find that most of the time when you're looking at everything at the inspection and you're paying attention to it and you're not ignoring it, you're going to be able to tackle those things because you have at least mentally and hopefully fiscally prepared for some of them. Here's another great tip. Annual HVAC, sewer, septic, and chimney tune-ups. $75 or $100 once a year can save you thousands in the long run. I can't recommend this enough. So all these hidden costs, well, most of them aren't going to be hidden at all because the right team is going to help you uncover what needs to get fixed right now and what you need to start preparing for in the future. It's a home. It's going to have things that need to get fixed. But educated homies work their last lease ever program by automating that savings. I actually have homies that set up the automated savings to a down payment and closing cost account, but they also created another automated savings account for furniture, appliances, decorations, plants, and of course, repairs and maintenance. And that's just there for them to start automating money going into it for when they actually own the home. I had one homie who called it, I'll censor it for you. He called it fixing stuff and cool stuff for my house. That's what he called it. So don't think that these hidden costs are these evil things lurking in the dark, hiding in the shadows that you can't see. All you have to do is come with this knowledge, and you can walk into home ownership with a giant flashlight and see them all coming. Okay, question number 15. What common mistakes should first-time homebuyers avoid? Now, this is a question I love because it tells me that you're really trying to learn from other people instead of learning the hard way. So let me tell you, there's a very long line of people that wish that they had done the same type of learning, but they didn't, and their stories are ugly. So when people ask me this question, I know one thing about them. Cool. That person asking is someone who wants to be prepared. The majority of people, they research online and they're asking about what mistakes happen when you're choosing a home. Or they ask what mistakes happen during the home inspection, all the money pit stuff. Or they say, hey, what mistakes do people do when they're getting the interest rate for their home loan? I don't want to get ripped off. Now, these, according to all the questions that people ask, these are seen as the big mistakes, and these have the worst horror stories. So my biggest tip about my 20 years and the biggest mistakes that I've seen people make is to shift away from those questions. Shift away from trying to find what those mistakes are. Since day one of this podcast, I've stated the best advice to avoid those mistakes are and could and might be part of your dealings in trying to buy a home. Avoiding those mistakes comes into play long before those questions ever come up. To avoid the most common mistakes, spend 10 times more time on your research for how to choose the best top-notch quality realtor and lender, and then lean on them and their experience to help you point out the mistakes that are possible for whatever you're doing, to help you avoid all of these things you're concerned about, as well as mistakes that you didn't even know to ask. I can tell you from the years and years of research on this, the average first-time homebuyer researches all those mistakes and what kind of home to buy, what to look for in inspections, and how to get the best loan rate for hours, days, sometimes even months more than the time that they put into researching how to hire their team. If you were having knee surgery, would you spend all of your time learning about every little detail of the surgery process? Every little thing that could happen and would happen and how to move the scalpel and what to do? No. Or would you spend your time researching for the best doctor to do the surgery on you? As a matter of fact, in episode 186, I interviewed a doctor who was a listener, and he actually had a very startling revelation during his home buying process. He'd been researching all these mistakes and things he was looking for years, learning how to avoid all the pitfalls. And then he finally felt like he was ready to hire his realtor. Now, as he worked with that realtor, he realized that every time his realtor would give him a recommendation, he would like triple check on everything that she said. And just, okay, that sounds all right, but let me see what the internet says about that. Suddenly, he told me, he said he was walking in his apartment and he went, oh my God, I've done it. I have turned into all of my patients that come to me and they WebMD me to death. So the biggest tip I can give anyone, if they want to avoid all those mistakes that they're so freaked out about, is to spend months and months and months building trust with a realtor and a lending team, creating your plan together. It's their expertise that's going to guide you away from mistakes and help you avoid the pitfalls, including a whole bunch that you never even dreamed of, and nor did the people on Reddit who, FYI, in their lifetime have bought one home. The first-time homebuyer subreddit is people who bought one home. A professional realtor and a professional lender, they do this every single day, seen it hundreds of times. And if those people, you vetted them well, and they're truly looking out for your best interests, the mistakes, they're not part of the process. You're not a number to them. You're a client for life. So you should be able to rest easy knowing that, they really want, well, actually, hell no, they need you to go through as a mistake-free process as they can do. Because their business only grows when you have a great experience and then you give glowing reviews and tell all your friends, oh my gosh, you got to work with this realtor, this lender, they're a unicorn. And understand, I offer this advice to you not as a theory, but from 2 decades of real stories, real clients, and sometimes, unfortunately, people who reach out to me with real tears. And the second part of this big mistake is trying to do too much on your own and waiting to hire the right team. So let me once and for all, although it's probably the 18th time I've done it on the podcast, once and for all, I want to let you know that you cannot call too early to a professional team that serves first-time homebuyers at the highest level. They're ready for it. They want it. They embrace it. You are not bothering anyone. No one is bummed out if you reach out early if they're good at the job and they understand how the process works. So get to them early. It reduces the stress for everyone. And for your own protection, don't try to do this on your own. You don't have to. And don't try to Google your way to homeownership because there's no one-size-fits-all plan. Your best path is unique to you, your financial picture, your local real estate market, and always your personal goals. Yet I still see folks binge YouTube videos or scroll through the subreddits and they think that they're building the most bulletproof custom plan because they've got all the mistakes that everybody else made and now they're going to build it all on their own. Spoiler alert, you're not going to avoid stuff. Not that way. Oh, and a little side note. The best thing about working with someone early is not all the mistakes that you avoid. It's actually all the options that you discover that you didn't even know were possible. Okay, so a giant detail that I see all the time that is a big mistake that I see happen, far bigger than the home inspection and all that stuff, is the first-time homebuyers don't connect with the unicorn until they're ready to go out and go shopping. And that's not just me talking. You ask anybody in the real estate or lending industry, and they will tell you that if they had teamed up with any one of their buyers a few months earlier, they could have set them up for a much better deal. Because with time, there are some simple calculated steps that can make the whole process easier. And I've said it again on the podcast lots of times. I've had so many buyers that tell me right as I'm handing them the keys, you know what, damn it, Sidoni, if I'd started this sooner, I could have done this way earlier and saved thousands of dollars on rent. And every time I say it, it breaks my heart a little bit. But you know what? They were ready and they didn't know it. The idea is to get this information out to you as soon as possible and know that your biggest mistake is not checking with someone to see what can I do. It's the number one mistake I see. People doing too much on their own, waiting too long to talk to a team, and then not hiring the right realtor or lender to help you avoid all those mistakes that you're freaked out about. That's it. Period. The end. Curtain. All right. So then let me give you some tips on how to vet, hire, interview your real estate support team. First of all, hire based on quality, experience, and their willingness to guide and educate first-time homebuyers on the entire process. Are they truly running a business that caters to the planning and execution of the entire first-time homebuyer process? Really important. And I know it could sound harsh, but I'm doing this a long time. I got thick skin now. I don't care. Just because your friend liked their realtor doesn't mean that realtor is the right person for you. And remember, that's coming from me, who my whole thing is when I work with people, I tell them and tell your friends because, and yeah, I think they should tell their friends that I'm good at what I do. But when it comes to me advising you, unfortunately, because I know the numbers that 9 out of 10 real estate agents are not doing a good job for first-time home buyers, that when I get referred to someone, I'm the 1 out of 10. When you get referred from your friend about their realtor, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that that guy or gal is not right for you. Your greatest nugget of knowledge to protect you is your knowledge of the game. And then the knowledge of the players that are involved in the game. 71% of realtors didn't sell one home last year. And as far as the history of realtors, 87% quit before they hit their 5th year in the business. The entire real estate industry has been prioritizing you at the very bottom, ignoring you as a consumer for 50 years. And they've created a system that serves you up. These people, where only 13% of them are going to be here in a few years, they give you untrained, unqualified, licensed agents. And yes, licensed, that was air quoted. I didn't do it officially here on the video, but boy, I hope you heard it in my voice. Licensed agents, because anyone can pass that test. And the reason they serve those people up to you is because that is how the brokers can make their maximum profits. So all of that stat, understanding the players in the games and who's doing what and why and how they're trying to make money, yeah, that'll make you really dig deep when you're attempting to vet. The best way to avoid mistakes is to hire someone who specifically says, this is our first-time homebuyer program, and we are obsessed with education, planning, and strategy for first-time homebuyers. Not someone who's just trying to close a deal. And the reason you want to make sure that you've got the right advocate working for you is because lots of stuff can happen. I mean, there are buyer mistakes like letting the emotions control the deal, skipping the inspection or blindly waiving contingencies, or, people who get so obsessed with trying to time the market, or maybe not working on your credit scores early enough. But when you've got the right person who is dedicated to the planning and the education for you, all the major mistakes mostly are going to be avoided. Using that savvy and compassionate professional, because their main objective is your financial success, your financial future. It's not about them securing theirs by getting the commission from you. So I cannot say it more strongly than this. I've been in this business 20 years, and I've dedicated the last 7 of them to building an educational platform to give first-time homebuyers the inside secrets on how to succeed. And the number one, the biggest mistake that I see time and time again is first-time homebuyers focusing too much on the mistakes of the nuts and bolts and details on the process and not hiring the right team soon enough to help them prepare for those mistakes and to help them guide them through those mistakes when they get to those things that happen in any sort of negotiation. I see people putting way too much emphasis on their ability to research and learn everything and not putting the emphasis and truly the value in the research that they do in vetting the team that's going to be with them step by step through the whole process. Okay, we're getting to question 16 now. What are some financial requirements that I need to qualify for a mortgage? Yeah, big question for first-time homebuyers. Makes total sense. You want to know where you stand before you dive in. The problem is there's not a magic formula. There's no perfect little magic numbers for everyone. The formula for a loan approval, it's more complex than just, okay, if you make $100,000, you can buy this much home. The common mistake that people make is assuming that there's a one-size-fits-all answer, like that question I just asked. And if you're looking for a ballpark answer online, I tell you the answers you get, they're way bigger than a ballpark. Think like a city block. Nope, think an entire county. Maybe even a whole state. All right, forget it. Lame analogy. But everyone says you're in the ballpark. The point is, you might think that these answers are in the ballpark, but they seriously could be way, way off. So what I did was I went and I checked some of the responses online. On Google, the AI at the top of the page, when I asked, if I make $100,000, how much house can I afford? Well, it gave me a really, really clear $300,000 to $400,000. The next one after the AI, top one, first response on Google. It says you can buy a home between $294,633 and $425,642. So now, let's talk about how ridiculous it is that there's no information. They have known nothing about you, the buyer, but they're giving you these insane specific numbers, $294,633 and then $425,642. Okay, that's ridiculous. But then let's talk about the spread. It's $131,000 in the spread. How is that helping anybody? Oh, I could buy a home here or one for $131,000 more. And that specific answer was brought to you by the fine people at Rocket Mortgage. Continuing down Google, as you scroll down, now you found Zillow's affordability calculator. Cool, a calculator. What it does is it takes your income, your monthly debt, and your down payment. It calculated that for a $100,000 salary, $250 of monthly debt payments, and a $20,000 down payment, you can afford a $338,425 home. Once again, the specific numbers, just say $340,000. Okay, cool. This one looks a little more legit, right? Oh, wait a minute. Right underneath it, I'm not kidding, it says click here for the disclaimer. And you open that, it says Zillow's affordability calculator is intended to be used for educational purposes only and is subject to a number of factors, blah, 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 blah. So bottom line, they sure as heck don't guarantee it. So when you're trying to figure out how much home you're going to buy, not a lot of help online. So where we go next is don't try to figure this one out on your own. There are dozens of variables that change the answer for each individual person. As much as I really wish I could give you, something that says, all right, with just some simple normal factors like your salary, your debt, and your savings and your credit score. Here, you can buy this much home. I wish it worked like that, but there's still a lot of other stuff that goes into it. The types of loan programs that you can actually get could change everything. And then also so many things about where you're looking to buy. What are the potential programs there? First-time homebuyer down payment assistance. I mean, there's so much stuff. And so it's not that I can't give you a guesstimate like the Zillow affordability calculator did. It's that I just won't. I've seen too many people get this question answered and answered incorrectly because they only use these little bits of information. And then they either get an overestimated answer, and then they get way ahead of themselves, and they get utterly crushed when they find their dream home, only to find out that when they get deep into it, they really have no ability to afford it. They can't purchase it. Or worse than that, It bums me out when I see people that get an underestimated answer and then they give up. I've seen it a lot. They stop their research altogether. Now, that's because they come back to me 2 years later, and that's when I hear the story. They were thinking that their only option, because of this answer that they got from some, weird thing they read online or some way too few variables calculation system, and then they go, oh, that's all I can afford? Well, forget it. So we're just going to keep saving and pray that we get a raise and make more money. But meanwhile, that entire time, they're paying rent to nothing, and they're probably watching home prices go up. And it's all because they just didn't get the correct information at the start. So we got to figure out your best personal answer. Don't seek to figure it out all on your own and then go hire the team based on what you figured out that you think you can afford. Hire the team to help you discover out what you can afford right now, using their knowledge, using all the custom dozens and dozens of variables, and you might be surprised at what you can afford. It's not that complicated for them, and you're not bothering them to find out. That's why unicorn lenders don't say it's an approval appointment or an approval call. No, instead, they call it a discovery call. And the best thing about this is that if you get the bummer answer, if you do the full financial picture and you still get a number lower than the one you were hoping for, no worries. A quality lender and a realtor team are going to get you action steps for you to take, even small ones, on your budget, your credit score, your debt, your savings, so you can build your own personal roadmap to get you that approval that you're looking for. It's not an approval call. It's not a red light or a green light. It's a discovery. And then don't look at it as a red light or a green light. It's a starting line. And then what you'll be doing is running the race to getting the approval you want with a great coach on the sidelines. And hey, I know a lot of you are like, dude, I came here for answers and you're just telling me I can't get the answers. Okay, if you want to hear some other numbers and calculations for guesstimates, you can check out the other How Much Can I Afford podcast episodes. I'm going to put them in the show notes. But again, after 20 years and tens of thousands of first-time homebuyers educated, I have learned that, yeah, you can listen to all those podcasts. There'll be, quite a few of them there. But in less time, you could have 2 45-minute phone calls, one with a vetted lender and one with a vetted realtor, and you can get the full picture. It's like 90 minutes of research. I mean, a lot of people will do that after one adult beverage and grabbing their laptop in bed. I see you on the YouTubes checking out all the different, you watch one and then you watch another and then you watch another and then you're like, too much YouTube. But what about Instagram? I see you. But there is an option. You can get real answers from real people. Okay. That's the buzzer on my time of this episode. Hit me up at howtobuyahome.com if you have specific questions for your specific buying path. Part 7's up next. More on the 20 questions. Oh my gosh, will I finish it the next episode? Who knows? Stay tuned. Stay curious and don't give up. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyahome.com to get started.